All right, let's dive right into this. We're going to follow the incredible journey of a single atom through what is, seriously, nature's most important recycling program, the nitrogen cycle. It's happening all around us, all the time. And you know what? Without it, life as we know it just couldn't exist.
Go ahead, take a deep breath. Okay, about 78% of the air you just pulled into your lungs was nitrogen. It's the most common gas in our atmosphere by a long shot. So you'd think, with that much of it just floating around, we'd have all we could ever need, right? Well, there's a catch.
And here it is, the central puzzle of our whole story. That nitrogen in the atmosphere, N2, it's locked up tight by an incredibly strong triple bond. And most living things, that means us, the plants we eat, pretty much everyone, we can't break that bond. We can't use it. It's like dying of thirst while floating in the ocean. Or like being surrounded by locked treasure chests, but you have no key.
So how in the world do we unlock this treasure? This is where our journey really begins. Before that nitrogen can get into the food web, it has to be converted into a form that life can actually use. It needs to be, quote, fixed.
And this first, absolutely critical step is called nitrogen fixation. Think of it as the grand opening of the cycle. This is the moment our useless nitrogen atom gets its ticket into the biological world. It's a huge chemical makeover, from N2 into something totally different, ammonia, or NH3.
So who are these amazing key makers? Well, for the most part, they're microscopic superheroes. You've got symbiotic bacteria like rhizobium, which live in the roots of plants like peas and beans. And this is exactly why farmers rotate their crops with legumes. It's a totally natural way to load the soil up with fixed nitrogen. We also have free-living bacteria and cyanobacteria out there doing the same job. And then there's nature's brute force method. The insane energy of a lightning strike can literally rip those nitrogen bonds apart. Wow.
Okay, so now our nitrogen has been fixed into ammonia. It's in the game. But to become truly valuable for most plants, it needs, let's say, a little bit of an upgrade.
This next stage is called nitrification, and it's a cool two-step process done by two different teams of specialist bacteria. First, bacteria like Nitrosomonas take that ammonia and turn it into nitrite. Then, a second team like Nitrobacter swoops in and turns that nitrite into nitrate. Now, the key detail here, and remember this, is that this whole process is aerobic. It has to have oxygen-rich soil for these little guys to do their thing.
All right, our nitrogen atom is now in the form of nitrate, which is basically the VIP pass that plants absolutely love. It is ready to be absorbed and to begin its grand tour through the entire ecosystem.
In this step, it's called assimilation. Plants just soak up these nitrates through their roots and use them as building blocks for the really, really important stuff. We're talking proteins and even your DNA and RNA. So this is it. This is the exact moment the nitrogen actually becomes part of a living thing. And this just lays it out perfectly, doesn't it? The journey is so simple, but so profound. The nitrogen goes from the soil into the plant. Then an animal eats the plant. Then another animal, or, us, eats that animal. And just like that, the nitrogen that was once uselessly floating around in the air is now literally part of our bodies, building our muscles and coding our DNA.
But what happens when organisms die or, produce waste? The cycle's gotta keep going, of course. This brings us to ammonification. Decomposers like bacteria and fungi get right to work. They break down all that organic matter and send the nitrogen right back into the soil as ammonia, ready to kick off that nitrification process all over again. It is nature's recycling program at its absolute best.
So far, we've seen nitrogen get into the biological world and get passed all around. But, a cycle has to close the loop. Our nitrogen atom has to eventually finish its journey and make its way back home, back to where it all started.
This final step is called denitrification. Now, this is carried out by a completely different crew of bacteria, like Pseudomonas, and these guys are anaerobic. What that means is they thrive in oxygen-poor environments, like swampy, waterlogged soil. And what they do, they take those nitrates and convert them all the way back into atmospheric nitrogen gas, N2. It's pretty much the exact reverse of fixation.
So denitrification does two really big things. First, it refills that massive reservoir of nitrogen in the atmosphere, which keeps the entire global system in balance. But, and this is a big but, on a local level, it actively removes those super useful nitrates from the soil. So while it's essential for the planet, it actually makes that specific patch of ground less fertile for plants. Kinda wild, huh?
For thousands and thousands of years, This whole cycle has just hummed along in this beautiful, self-regulating balance. But in the last century or so, we've started to put our thumb on the scale, and I mean heavily.
I mean, just look at this chart. Through the industrial production of fertilizers and a bunch of other activities, we humans are now fixing as much, and in some cases more, than all natural processes combined. Let that sink in. We have effectively doubled the amount of new nitrogen entering the cycle every single year.
So what happens to all that extra nitrogen? It doesn't just vanish. A lot of it runs off our farm fields into our rivers, lakes, and oceans, causing this massive problem called eutrophication. Basically, this nitrogen overload acts like a super fertilizer for algae, causing these huge algal blooms. And when those blooms die and decompose, they suck all the oxygen out of the water, creating what we call dead zones, where fish and other aquatic life just can't survive.
Now, to really get a handle on our impact, we've got to bust a couple of common myths. First up, some people think denitrification makes soil better because it's a natural process. But the fact is, as we just saw, it removes the good stuff, the nitrates, from the soil, making it less fertile.
And here's another key distinction that just shows how delicate this whole balance is. Nitrification, that's the process that creates those useful nitrates. It requires oxygen. It's the total opposite of denitrification, which happens in oxygen-poor conditions. The local environment completely dictates which part of the cycle is running, and our activities can so easily throw that whole environment out of whack.
So to sum it all up, I think this quote just nails it perfectly. The entire, incredibly complex system is driven by microbes. It's all about turning gas from the air into the literal building blocks of life, and then sending it back again, powering the productivity of our entire planet.
Which leaves us with a final, really big question to chew on. Our ability to fix nitrogen industrially has, no question, fed billions of people, but it has also profoundly broken a fundamental system of nature. So, have we outsmarted nature, or have we just pulled a massive lever without fully understanding all the consequences? That's something to think about.